How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 2, Episode 2, and this one's entitled Lifebomb. Lifebomb from October 6, 1985, so back in 1985 we were going into Halloween. You see why it's a good time to bring the show back. And this episode is directed by Frank De Palma, a series regular director. This episode stars Bill Macy, Robert Riesel, and Samantha Harper. And the teleplay, as well as the story it was based on, was written by Michael Kube-McDowell. In this episode, we get a businessman as our main character, a very stressed out, very overworked businessman, and he's approached by a mysterious salesman selling a product called the Lifebomb. And the idea is, if your life's ever in danger, you have a little pack on your back, and it will sort of explode into this cocoon. The cocoon will wrap you up, it will apply pressure, it will give you whatever drugs you need, it will keep you alive, and it will actually call for help if you need it. So the idea is, with this cocoon, you can't die. It will keep you in it and keep you alive until help can get there. So it's a death-proof device. But he doesn't really believe it. It sounds too good to be true. However, he has a weak heart. A heart attack is coming at any minute. He can't really have time to be suspicious of it. He needs it right away. But what's the guy's game? What is up with this Lifebomb company? What do they want? There's a secret cost here, and he doesn't know what it is. And I won't spoil it, but it's a pretty interesting reveal. Overall, this isn't the biggest and best episode of Darkside, but it definitely is an interesting little story. I've mentioned time and again that Darkside really does stories with a strong human element to them, and this one is a character study. Now, I will say I do wish this episode was longer so we could really get in and look at this guy and all his life and the decisions he makes. But that being said, for a half-hour time block, they really do pull off this character study pretty well. The guy is working really hard, maybe even working himself to death, and he has to be heartless, but he wants to get what he wants. He wants to survive. He wants to build a life for his family. However, working so hard to get to this end goal is going to be the very thing that pushes the end goal away from it. He's working for his family, but his wife is upset and doesn't want to be around him because of how obsessive he is over his job. So the classic trying to get something and the trying is pushing you away, and you really do get how this guy operates and what he's willing to sacrifice, and that all leads to the cost at the end, which, again, I won't spoil, but I will say it's not some out-of-nowhere supernatural twist. It doesn't go, aha, this is something like vampires. No, it's none of that. Despite the fact that the Lifebomb is a fictional device, the way that these companies are using it and what their idea is behind it, it makes so much sense in a real perspective, and you're like, oh, that's what this is all about. Well, dang, that's kind of dark, and it really does leave the character in a dark place, and it really is a creative concept and a creative way of going about things. And also, I say all the time that Darkside was ahead of its time in regards to technology. 1985, yet just nowadays, like, I literally saw commercials not that long ago for, like, the Apple Watches, and the Apple Watches can supposedly call for help if it detects that you, like, fell down or passed out or something. I don't know too much details of the actual program, but when I saw this episode, I'm like, huh, we don't have this per se, but we definitely have steps leading up to it. So it is pretty interesting to see Darkside predicting the future a little bit. But yeah, a good dark character study, dark ending, really interesting and an interesting concept. A little cocoon that comes around you and keeps you from dying. Really, really interesting. Anyway, without further ado, I want to go ahead and talk about this episode in a little more specifics. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers. I do want to analyze the plot and, talk about a few elements from it, but I'll be avoiding the end bits. I'll be avoiding that twist. So, without further ado, let's dive in a little deeper. We open up with this businessman, and he's in this big, dark, oppressive office. It's like a whole bunch of black marble. A really interesting set. And he's there, and he's going about his business, and it's really stressing him out and weakening his heart. But you see stuff that he's dealing with. There's a senator that he's been trying to lobby because he really needs some of the laws changed, but the guy's dodging him, and he's like, I really need, for the sake of the company's survival, to talk to the senator. And then he's also dealing with this accident. That's really the big thing for the whole episode. He works in the legal department. There's a horrible accident, and a bunch of their miners have died. They've died or gotten disabled or hurt, and in turn they need to pay out some money. And they're looking at $30 million, and he says, that's way too much. The company can't take that. I have to talk them down. And that's an interesting spot where they put him in. He's definitely being an antagonist to these poor, workers here, but they don't just write him off as a mustache-twirling villain. They explain why he thinks what he thinks, and he says the miners knew that was a risk when they took the job, and that's why we gave them such a high wage. That's why they got paid so much, because of the danger, and they knew that going in, and we did give them what their insurance policy said. We didn't cheat them out of their insurance. We gave them what we told them we'd give them if something like this happened. They got what they asked for. And technically, on paper, he's right, and he doesn't want the company he works for to go under, but he definitely is pretty darn heartless. So you see where he's coming from, even if you're not behind him, So you see what kind of a person this job has forced him into. This is very much about a man's relationship with work and how it can change him, and we've seen him be pretty heartless right here at the beginning. And on top of that, he has a bad relationship with his wife, which really does point out the irony of this. The wife says, I wish we had a relationship, but you just work and you don't ever spend time with me. We don't ever do anything. We are together, but we don't really do anything together. We don't have a relationship. And that's really where the irony is with this episode. He's doing this job to provide for his family, to make sure that they'll be okay, but because he does this job, because it takes up so much time, because it's putting him through all this stress, he's pushing his family away. So doing this for his family, simultaneously pushing them away, his goal is self-defeating. So it really is a bad downward spiral this guy's in. So a really interesting character right off the bat. But then we get the Lifebomb. The salesman walks in with this big red jacket, and he says, I have a product for you. You have life insurance, but life insurance covers if you die. What you really want is something that will prevent you from dying. And that's where he introduces the product, the Lifebomb. Well, what is that? He pushes a little button on his tie, and all of a sudden there's a big explosion. That's a really good hook. The Lifebomb. Boom. Well, the guy goes around the desk to see what happened, and there's a big orange cocoon on the floor, and the guy pops the top of the cocoon open and says, let me tell you more about this. So, yeah, really intriguing, a good spectacle. But basically, the Lifebomb, you get some sensors surgically implanted in you, and the sensors will detect if you're in distress, and there's a little pack, and it has a bunch of fabric that can remember its previous shape and will wrap around you. There's also any kind of drugs you might need. It can apply pressure where it's needed. And there's also a radio. And the radio will send out to the police and all the ambulances and stuff where you are, so even if you're alone, you get help. And it's basically a death-proof device. It's really interesting. So the guy has some questions, and he says, okay, what's the catch? How much does this cost? And he goes, oh, for you it's free. We work through your company's insurance. And that's what sets him off. He's like, free? This is too good to be true. What's the real cost? And he's cautious about this, and the guy goes, caution is definitely a good thing. And he gives them all the records. He's very public about it, and he says, here are some people you can call. You know them in real life. They're all big businessmen like you, and we've told them you might call and you can, see that it's legit. But he says, we don't have life bombs for everybody. So keep it hush-hush. Don't tell anybody if you get your life bomb. Don't tell anybody that you have one. So right off the bat, it's like they're open, but they're also hidden, So it's really interesting. What are they up to? What is the cost? But as he goes about working for the next little bit, his heart is starting to suffer. And maybe he doesn't have time to fully analyze this situation. Maybe he has to jump in. And from there, it shakes up his character study. It really is pushing him to the next level. He's made a deal, he doesn't know what the cost is, and you've already seen him sacrifice so much and change so much as a person. Again, you know where he's coming from. He's being bad, but you see where he came from. You see why he's a bad guy. And they really do an effort to humanize him, even though he's in a scummy position. And in turn, when the final big, the real price of the life bomb is revealed, you really do feel sad for the guy. It really is a dark ending. And overall, there's a lot to think about with this one. It definitely is interesting. Like I said, it's not the biggest, best Darkside episode, but there is something to think about, and I would say it encourages people to analyze their relationship with their job and see just what all you do, what does it cost you, and what does it take away from you. Really, really interesting, and a good dark character study with a unique setup with this device that cocoons you. Really interesting stuff. Not the best thing ever, but pretty interesting. Anyway, I liked it. To everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist. If you want to see me talk about more Darkside, I've covered all the past episodes, so that's all of Season 1 and the first episode of Season 2. I also did an overview of Season 1, the Joe Hill comics, and the Christmas episodes, so the playlist is getting kinda long. So if you want to see more Darkside, that should pop up. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.